Oh boy, as someone who watches One Piece and is on like episode 990 something of the anime, when I tell you I was feeling hyped for this show, but I was nervous. I was thinking, is it gonna suck? Is it gonna slap? You know, I don't know which one of the two, because, you know, live action animes or mangas, whatever, don't have a good reputation. And so I needed a buffer, and that buffer came in the form of one of my friends, and we just finished watching the show. Oh my god. You know, my general thoughts, bit spicy, but I do want to focus on something slightly different. I mean, I will refer to my thoughts throughout the video, but this video is more so about how immersive I thought it was, because ranting about, oh, they didn't get this accurate, they didn't get this accurate, whatever, or oh, they did get this accurate, is all great and good, but I think that we need to start being a bit critical with fiction, and that's what I'm here to do, to be a bit critical, but in a more focused manner, you know, focusing on engagement and immersion rather than small little differences, or massive in some cases, differences between the adaptation and the anime. But first, let me summarize this for you, just to get you up to grips with what's going on. You probably have seen the show, or you've heard of it, or you've seen the manga. If you haven't watched either One Piece, read the manga, or watched the live action, please do not watch this video. Please don't. Don't be crazy. Let's not be psycho now. So a summary. One Piece, I mean, I didn't even have to look this up. I already knew this. One Piece, the live action TV series, was based on a manga called One Piece by Ichiro Oda, published by Shonen Jump magazine. So the live action was similar but not the same. Basically, a Brazilian team named Luffy wants to become the Pirate King, and so he travels around to find the past Pirate King's treasure. While Marines are the enemy of the pirates, he is helped by a good-natured young Marine called Kobe, and then escapes, and then a bit too quickly for my liking, grows a crew through some strangely timed hardships, betrayals, and fighting, and all of that stuff. Again, a bit strangely timed, I'm not gonna lie, a bit strangely timed, but, you know, we live and we learn. I don't know, I mean, what can I do? It's already happened, like, and then he even sees Garp again, Jesus Christ. He faces, like, a clown with detachable limbs, a fishman, some guy doing this all the time, with his crew of a pirate hunter, swordsman, a burglar navigator, a lying sniper, and then a British-French
cocktails to help you choke down your meal.
French chef who loves women and loves fighting with his toesy woesies. We'll say, wish Sanji wasn't casted by a Cockney. You're gonna have to Google Cockney, because I ain't doing that for you. Wish's accent was French, because he's supposed to be French, you know, like, don't know what's going on, you know. Why was he saying, oi Nami, pass me the creme brulee, like the creme brulee, yeah, I need the croissant, bro, Nami, come on. It's like, I was telling my friend this entire time, stop speaking. They did cast them well visually though, like all the hair and the skin matched. But like, honestly, when they made Garp and Luffy meet again, I was this close to emailing the whole production team and just being like, oi, you're messing it up, yeah? Like, but that's my personal opinion. It's not about immersion. So it's a no-go. I'm not gonna bother ranting about that. Maybe at the end, I don't know. We need to focus. Did I find this story to be immersive? That's hard to answer. And so I have a score I'm gonna come up with by using the narrative immersion scale. Narrative immersion, because I'm sure a lot of people don't know, is a way to measure our engagement with fictional media. Narrative immersion can be split into two different subsections: transportation and identification, and this is backed up by various psychological studies, including my own. I've taken this concept and made it into a scale, which I use to generate a score to assess how much I feel that a show or comic or etc is narratively immersive. You can use this as well. If you do, please credit me, please. But if you use it in your private life, obviously I will not be able to lurk. I don't think I need to tell you that. I will not stalk you. So let's start with transportation. And I think in terms of the inside world, we got a nice tick. We got a good mark there. We got 1 point because we got the inside world. We understood who the Straw Hats were, where they were, what they were doing, what their goals were, kind of more about the ship that they're on, just knowledge of East Blue and the area around them and the hometowns of the characters, things like that. Garp's crew, we got the ship, we got the functions of the crew, we got the hierarchy. We really understood what was going on in the inner world of these characters and what they were doing with their lives, in a sense, and where they were. Had a base is what I'm trying to say. So for the outside world, I'm going to give it a 0.5. Because we did get a lot of bitty stuff, but we didn't get enough detail. We didn't get that depth with Shanks, or we didn't get that depth with Mihawk, or the maps. We saw the maps, but we didn't understand the maps. We didn't get into what was going on outside, what really was the layouts of these other places. But we did get a nice preview of different characters like Smoker. We got to see that there was more going on than we actually know. There was other places. There was the Grand Line that they wanted to get to. By virtue of having these little bitty things, they clump together to a half. So abilities and skills, I don't think that it's a 0, but I don't think it's a 1. It's another 0.5 for me, because while we did see a good amount of fighting in the show, we didn't get a good comparison of strength. Like, we saw Mihawk fighting Zoro, and we saw, which was probably the only decent comparison in the whole show of strength and like putting strength into perspective. Another good comparison, Garp and Luffy. But then we saw Mihawk fighting against these fodder. We don't even know how strong they are. If they were Marines, then we could be like, okay, Garp is this strong and he's a vice admiral, and then the captain's this strong, and then, you know, like, you could compare it. But like, we barely knew how strong Mihawk was. We barely knew how strong Luffy was throughout the entire show. We barely understood it. If you were only watch the live action, you would never know, but they did so much fighting, they had so much banter, there was so much experience that they gained even in the first few arcs that showed and demonstrated their skills and what made them different. That devil fruits were so important to the story, as well as raw skill like swordsmanship. It wasn't well enough touched upon in the live action to say that gets a full point for me for abilities and skills, because I don't know, there's just a lot more that could be done. The interesting events was easy for me. It was a point because there was many different story arcs. Practically every 2 episodes or so we had a different story arc, and in the first episode compared to the second episode, they were like story arc 1, story arc 2, and then it would be Usopp's story arc, and then it was Sanji's story arc, and then Nami's story arc. It was quite constant. There was constant changes, and I think that those continuously changing story arc really kept up the pace and the interest in the show. Again, of course, I knew they were coming, but you know, it still made it interesting. Me and my friend were saying this, but it was attention grabbing in maybe episode 1 and the last episode, and also maybe one of Usopp's, like the second half of Usopp's arc. Those were 3 episodes, personally amazing, like really good. We theorized, listen to me now, that Oda, he was there for episode 1 and the last episode, like episode 8, and that's it, because the vibe of the show completely changed. There was so much dialogue with the Marines, it was insane, and I think that part of it really took away from how attention grabbing it was. I think because of the interesting events and the constantly changing stuff, I'll give it a 0.5, but the amount of dialogue with the Marines and the amount of like non-banter, like One Piece, again, if you haven't seen it, fine, but I'll just tell you, this is not a spoiler, so much banter, I can't even express to you, and if you know, you know, but there was barely any of that. So that really took away from how attention grabbing it could have been. The second half of the narrative immersion scale is the identification half. The main character, and I tell you, I wanna, like, in a video game, I wanna end it to say this, I'm not even joking, I'm giving it a 0.5. Overacting of the century. I'm giving Luffy a 0.5. I know, listen, I don't know about you, I love Luffy, but in this show we didn't get enough attention on him. He wasn't as deep as he could be. He barely spoke half the time, and it was like Luffy has such a deep level of stupidity and passion, and when I'm thinking about immersion, I'm thinking about how much I could latch onto him and how deep and detailed his character writing was. And I think from what I saw, of course we had Shanks and other things, but he didn't feel like a main character, and he didn't feel like a deep character, and that was bothersome. It wasn't awful, which is why I give it a 0.5. It wasn't like they didn't address him or didn't make him a character. He just wasn't the main character. So yeah, 0.5. Side characters though, another 1. I'm very happy to give a 1. There was so many backstories, and they fit in a lot of detail in the backstories than I expected, considering that a lot of the episodes episodes, they weren't really getting into grips of the characters. I think it was episode 3, Zoro and Nami were so moody. They were like beyond moody, and it was getting so frustrating to watch. Like, that's not exactly what they're like. They like, maybe Nami was a bit moody because she was gonna betray them, as we found out later on, but Zoro, especially in the early episodes, was quite laid back and chill, like especially before he even faced Mihawk. So I didn't expect they would do the side characters well, but every backstory was really good. I think they adapted it very well, and they also started to understand what the side characters were like. And even though they were different from the source material and they acted slightly differently, except for maybe Usopp was pretty spot on, and Luffy as well, I would definitely say that the side characters functioned well as side characters. No matter who I'm considering, it's definitely a 1. I could definitely describe what I needed to describe about the characters to you, and that's important, especially with side characters. They need something to be easily recognizable. The villains and the conflicts were often disappointing. I mean, the villains had reasoning, they had build up to a degree, but the feeling of fear and the threats and the understanding of what they will do if you do not stop them, it was not emphasized enough to my liking. I'm in Wano. I'm far ahead, so I don't remember every single detail. I just remember generally what happened. So I was excited, and I didn't really get that feeling of, I know why we need to stop these villains. When we introduced Usopp's villain, it was like, okay, this guy is poisoning her, it's awful, and that was good, I will say. And then also Arlong himself, Arlong was good, but Buggy, it was very tacky. And also Mihawk just upped and left, right? I guess my problem is that the villains don't feel like they can harm the characters very much. I didn't feel threatened by the conflicts either. Zoro's gonna die. Oh! Everyone knows Zoro wasn't gonna die. He was asleep. Who's gonna drink the alcohol if Zoro's dead? Do you know what I mean? Like, we knew he wasn't gonna die. So there was a lot of conflicts that also didn't feel like they had much weight to them. Motifs and themes, there were loads of lovely motifs and themes. I'm sure you can expect, it's a point. There was the hat, you know, Nami's tattoos, loads of stuff in the story arc, the different islands, the swords, the everything. There was just so many different themes and motifs that were being talked about, you know, slavery, racism, we got royalty, money, coercion, we got the military, the police, and the justice system and morality around that. We got so many things being bought out by criminals, but are they criminals? I mean, yes, they are criminals, but they have reason, but their reasons are they're going too far. So many different things being talked about in this condensed show that they pretty much covered very well, and I appreciated it. And then the last thing, last but not least, was emotionally engaging. And in terms of emotionally engaging, it's kind of like the conflicts, like the climaxes or the speeches that they did. Some of it felt just a bit awkward, I suppose. It made it harder to emotionally connect. I do think the flashbacks were definitely on more of the side of good, so that's why I've given it a 0.5. But then we get the reasoning behind the fights, and then the fact that the crew weren't bantering meant that when the crew were having an argument, or was it episode 7 or something, or when Nami was betraying them, I felt such a lack of care, because it's like we barely saw them like each other. Why did they like each other already so much? I kind of felt like, this girl just stepped off, but we barely know her. Like, what the hell does it matter? Like, that's what it felt like. And so I think that it took away from how emotionally engaging this show could be, and thus I'm giving it a 0.5. So if you've been counting, that's 3.5 and 3.5, and that equals to... What does it equal to? Yay! I'm sure even in your head you answered if you didn't answer aloud. 7. 7 points out of 10. 7 out of 10. That's a score that means good. It means just good. And I think that's nice. You know, it's a live action. I'm not that shocked that I felt the need to assess it this way. Yeah, I did think it was definitely immersive as a show. As an adaptation, let me just say quickly before I end, it's decent show, decent adaptation, but definitely not amazing, definitely not masterpiece. People are rating it 10 out of 10. I mean, are you insane? But I know because people are review bombing it, they're trying to balance it out, but it's definitely not 10 out of 10. Please do not rate it a 10. Please don't even lie to yourself. If you want to do one thing, then subscribe. Let me know down below what you think of the score and how you came to watching this live action as well. I'm quite interested to know that. And yeah, then I say a quirky goodbye. じゃあね、안녕。俺はモンキー D ルフィ。海賊を俺はなると思った。多分違う。でも忘れたこの言葉。 ルフィはさを使わないだろう。そして家族を俺はなる。I forgot the に家族をに俺はなる